In 1868, a man named J.R. Watkins started handing strangers a bottle of medicine and telling them not to pay until they were satisfied. By 1996, a company laid off 2,300 salesmen in 1 year, ending a job that had made some of them 6 figures a year, selling books nobody could return once opened. In between those 2 dates, the doorbell became one of the most profitable pieces of real estate in American business. Profitable enough to fund a Supreme Court case, a federal law, and at least one modern billionaire. This is not nostalgia. This is a pattern. Every one of these door-to-door fortunes ran on the exact same trade: a stranger, a knock, and a commission with no ceiling. Every single one of them was eventually studied, cleaned up, and sold back to you with the stranger removed. These 14 hustles were not gimmicks. They were prototypes. And by the end of this list, you're going to know exactly which parts of your life are still running on somebody else's doorbell, minus the door. Number 14, the liniment wagon and the Watkins guarantee. In 1868, J.R. Watkins brewed a red liniment in Plainview, Minnesota, and pushed it door to door in a cart before building a 100-mile wagon route. His pitch had one rule: keep the bottle, don't pay until you're satisfied. By 1917, 3,000 Watkins men were running that same rule across the US and Canada. The trick was never the liniment, it was the guarantee. Once a stranger let you leave something in his kitchen for free, he owed you a conversation. What still works? Money-back guarantees are the baseline of every online store you've ever ordered from. What vanished it? Nothing killed Watkins outright. It just shrank to a specialty grocery brand once refrigerated medicine and pharmacies made a traveling liniment salesman pointless. Your grandfather trusted a stranger's word. You trust a return policy. Same contract. Number 13, the Brushman and the Fuller Pledge. In January of 1906, Alfred Fuller built brushes by hand in his sister's basement on $375 of total capital. Every recruit signed a pledge, courteous, kind, sincere, helpful, before touching a single brush, and wore oversized rubber boots so they could kick them off fast if invited inside. By 1956, 7,000 full-time salesmen were reaching 90% of American homes. The trick was never the brush. It was the free gift at every door, whether you bought anything or not. What vanished it was Fuller's own new owners, who restructured into multi-level marketing in 1991 and gutted the door-to-door force themselves. No law did that. A boardroom did. And in a detail almost nobody knows, the first American town to ban this kind of selling, Green River, Wyoming, got sued over it in 1933 by the company whose name is now permanently attached to that court case, Fuller Brush. 18 years later, the Supreme Court settled the question for good, ruling that a town has the constitutional right to ban uninvited commercial solicitation entirely. Number 12, the perfume sample and the Avon Lady. David McConnell sold books door to door in the 1880s and gave away a small vial of rose perfume to get women to listen. He noticed something. They wanted the perfume more than the books. So he dropped the books, hired a minister's daughter named Mrs. Albee as his first saleswoman in 1886, and built an empire on the free sample instead of the product. What still works? The free trial is the exact same trick, running in every app store on your phone. What vanished it, at least at your door? Women went to work, and the daytime housewife, the whole model was built around simply stopped being home. Your grandmother didn't need an app. She had a doorbell and an afternoon. Number 11, the kitchen demonstration and wherever aluminum. In 1903, a company started selling aluminum pots door to door, cooking full meals in customers' kitchens to prove the metal would not warp or rust like the cast iron everyone already owned. College students ran the sales force. In 1912, the U.S. Marine Corps adopted wherever aluminum mess kits as standard issue, a level of institutional trust almost no consumer brand ever earns. The trick was never the pot. It was the free cooking demonstration that made the sale before the pitch even started. What vanished it? Non-stick coatings, Teflon, and eventually big box kitchen aisles made a door-to-door cookware demo feel like a waste of an evening. The infomercial that sells you a pan at 2 in the morning is this exact same demonstration, just on a screen instead of your stove. Number 10, the home demonstration and Electrolux. In 1955, an Electrolux vacuum cost $69.75, and there was exactly one way to buy it: a home demonstration, never a store shelf. The trick was scarcity of access, not scarcity of product. You couldn't get one even if you wanted to, unless a salesman showed up first. What still works, the home demo remains the single best way to sell anything expensive and unfamiliar. It's why solar and security companies still do it today. What vanished it? Retail chains realized they could sell the same appliance for less without a commission attached. And customers stopped waiting for a stranger to knock. She just didn't need to wait for the doorbell anymore. Here's where this list turns a corner. The first 5 tricks were about a single person, a single doorstep, a single sale. What comes next is bigger. These are the systems and the institutions that turned a knock on the door into an entire financial infrastructure. Number 9, the Encyclopedia Salesman and the death of Britannica's sales force. By the 1960s, a set of Britannica or World Book cost $800 to $1,000 on an easy payment plan of maybe $19 a month, and the salesman who closed it kept 30 to 50% for himself. Call it $300 for one conversation, in an era when that was half a month's wages. At its peak, Britannica alone ran 2,300 salesmen. The trick was never the books. It was that information used to have a delivery cost, and someone got paid to be that delivery. What vanished it? Encarta shipped on CD-ROM in 1993, the open internet did the rest, and in 1996, Britannica laid off every remaining salesman in the United States and Canada in 1 year. Your grandfather paid $300 for a conversation with a stranger. You get the same information for free from a website named after the thing that killed the job. Number 8, Kirby and the vacuum Warren Buffett owned. Kirby vacuums have been sold exclusively door-to-door since the 1920s, and they still are. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, owned Kirby's parent from 1986 to 2021. Courts in North Dakota and Texas have both ruled Kirby legally responsible for its own distributors' crimes because the company controls a sales model that only exists inside a stranger's living room. The trick was never the suction power. It was that a $2,000 vacuum only sounds reasonable if nobody's had a chance to compare it to anything else first. What still works? The price still drops the moment you push back. And some buyers report a $2,000 unit becoming $1,200 the second they hesitate. What vanished for most competitors, but not for Kirby? Everyone else moved to retail. The world's most trusted investor quietly kept one of the most complained about sales forces in America running for 35 years. Buffett knew the other side of that door personally. As a kid in Omaha, he sold magazine subscriptions and bottles of Coca-Cola door-to-door himself, decades before he ever owned a company that did it at scale. Number 7, the sewing machine and the invention of consumer credit. A Singer sewing machine cost $125 in the 1850s, about a quarter of a worker's entire annual income. In 1856, the company's lawyer, Edward Clark, invented something that didn't exist yet. Pay $5 down and a few dollars a month, take the machine home today. Sales tripled in a year. To track it, Singer built the first true consumer credit database in history, millions of handwritten payment cards, filed in wooden cabinets on every customer worldwide. The trick was never the sewing machine. It was that Singer invented modern debt before anyone had a word for it. What still works, buy now, pay later, is the same idea with an app instead of a card catalog. What vanished the original version? Singer also destroyed every used machine it took in trade, on purpose, to make sure you could never buy a cheaper one second-hand. The math hasn't changed. Only the paperwork got cleaner. Your grandmother's own machine, if she had one, was almost certainly paid for exactly this way, $1 at a time. Number 6. The Soapbox and the Larkin Clubs. In 1885, the Larkin Soap Company put a small gift inside every box of soap. By the 1890s, the gifts were furniture, and customers started forming their own Larkin clubs, pooling orders with neighbors to hit the next reward tier faster. Sales hit $28 million in 1920, second only to Sears in catalog variety. The trick was never the soap. It was that customers organized themselves into your sales force for free, because a bigger prize was one purchase away. What still works? This is a loyalty program and a wholesale club membership, invented at the same time by the same soap company. What vanished it? Market saturation after World War I. Then the Depression crushed catalog sales entirely by 1930. Nobody noticed when the clubs quietly stopped forming. Number 5. The weekly collector and industrial life insurance. Starting in the 1870s, life insurance agents walked an assigned territory called a debit, collecting premiums as small as 3 cents a week, in person, at the kitchen table, every single week, for decades. Many agents worked the same route for 30 years and knew every family on it by name. The trick was never the insurance. It was that trust could be collected weekly, in cash, by a familiar face, when almost nobody in the neighborhood had a bank account to draw from. What still works? The exact same product exists today, renamed Final Expense Insurance, sold entirely online, no knock required. What vanished the agent? Bank branches expanded, direct mail got cheaper, and eventually nobody needed a person to physically carry the payment anymore. Same policy, cleaner paperwork. Here's something most of these stories leave out on their own. Every trick so far was killed by something external. Technology, a law, a market shift. What's coming next got built by people who watched all of that happen and used it on purpose. Number 4. The party plan and the women Stanley underestimated. In 1931, in the middle of the Great Depression, a former Fuller Brush sales executive named Frank Beveridge started a new door-to-door company and invented something Fuller never had: the party plan, where a hostess invited her own friends over and got a free gift for it. One of his top saleswomen, a divorced single mother named Brownie Wise, was told by Beveridge that as a woman, she had no future in management. She left, took the party plan to a struggling plastics company, and built Tupperware into a household name. Another Stanley alum, Mary Kay Ash, did the same thing with cosmetics. The trick was never the mop or the duster. It was that Stanley trained the two women who'd go on to out-earn the men who told them no. What still works? Nearly every home-based side hustle you've seen on social media runs this same hostess model. He just didn't see the empire he was training. Number 3, the home fashion show and the Sarah Coventry empire. In 1949, a jewelry company named after a founder's granddaughter built its entire sales force around home fashion shows instead of storefronts. By 1975, its commercials ran more than 550 million times across American television. For 33 years, Sarah Coventry designed the actual crown handed to Miss Universe. The trick was never the jewelry. It was that a party felt like a night out, not a sales pitch, so nobody minded that a sale was happening. What still works? Influencer jewelry drops on social media are the same fashion show as sales floor idea, just filmed instead of hosted. What vanished it? Women went back to full-time work in the late 70s and 80s, the parties stopped filling calendars, and the company went bankrupt in 1981. A subsidiary of Playboy Enterprises bought the name a few years later, hoping to turn it into a broader lifestyle brand. It didn't work, and by the time later owners were slapping the Coventry name on umbrellas and fanny packs, nobody was buying that either. Number 2, the college book salesman and Southwestern advantage. Since 1868, college students have spent their summers selling educational books door to door for a 40% commission. Living with host families in towns they've never visited, some logging 80-hour weeks. It is today the oldest continuously operating entrepreneurial program for college students in the country. The trick was never the books. It was that a stranger's age and desperation, a kid paying his own tuition, made the door open faster than any adult salesman ever could. What still works? This exact program is still running this summer in your neighborhood, whether you've noticed the car with out-of-state plates or not. What critics still say hasn't changed since the 1990s. Online complaint boards call it a cult in one sentence and a life-changing entrepreneurial boot camp in the next. Nobody's fully settled which one it is. It's still both. Number 1, the cleaning company and the ruling that built an industry. In 1959, 2 childhood friends started a cleaning products company out of their basements in Michigan. By 1979, the Federal Trade Commission had investigated them for operating what looked exactly like a pyramid scheme and ruled that they were not one, as long as distributors kept selling real products to real customers and could return unsold inventory. That single ruling became the legal template every multi-level marketing company in America still operates inside of today. The trick was never the cleaner. It was the ruling itself, a permission slip good forever. What the FTC's own numbers admitted, 2 out of every 3 Amway distributors make less than $115 a year. The company still does over $8 billion in sales annually. The product disappeared into the background completely. What never vanished, not even slightly, is the rule Amway got written for the entire industry it started. Notice what actually disappeared across all 14 of these, and what didn't. The knock disappeared. The commission-only stranger disappeared. The territory, the guarantee, the free sample, the payment plan, the party, the weekly collector, none of that vanished at all. It just stopped needing a face. We document the systems that disappeared while nobody was watching. Pick one of these tricks: the guarantee, the free trial, the payment plan, the loyalty club, and notice where it's already running in your own life this week. Then come back and tell me which one your grandfather would recognize first.